Hey, it's Joey Savage again, where we're here in the Glaxon Lab, where we're going to talk about adaptogens, plants that make you adapt, that are found in Adrinall. And just so you know, everything I do and say here has not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Anything I do or say is not intended to treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any disease, and for the most part is for entertainment purposes only. So let's get back to it. We're talking about adaptogens. And what are adaptogens? Adaptogens are things, various agents, for the most part, and for our intents and purposes, of botanical origin, that are there to make you adapt to stress. And stress, it's not always a bad thing. Stress, for the most part, is what makes us adapt. You know, you never will do anything if you're stuck in your comfort zone and nothing really challenges you. So the point about stress is it's good to have some, it's bad to have too much. Because too much stress can cause elevated levels of cortisol. It's a hormone that's really there to wreck your day for the most part, or at least keep you on your toes. You have high cortisol levels if you're under like chronic levels of stress. Maybe you have bad work-life balance, or maybe your just metabolism isn't very good. But high levels of cortisol can be kind of bad. They're pro-inflammatory, and they can increase your body's capability of storing body fat, and it can also just slow down your metabolism in general. So in that case, there's various products that are completely based off of the fact that they're trying to hinder the amount of cortisol that's going on in your body. But cortisol is also kind of good. It's good for maybe when you're hangry. You know, if you're hangry, your blood sugar's starting to go down, your cortisol levels are starting to go up, your attitude is getting worse and worse and worse, and unless you get some sort of food soon, nothing is going to save the day. Another reason when you might have, or another situation when you might have high cortisol would be like if you have to pee really bad. Maybe you just woke up in the morning and you've got to get to the bathroom now. So that's the signal of cortisol saying we've got to do something to adapt to this stress right here in the right now. And as that old adage is true, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If the stress doesn't kill you, it will make you adapt, and therefore, in the future, you will have better physiological coping skills than you've had previously. So what are these stressors? There's all kinds of different stressors in our lives. There's other people, there's all these other psychological factors, but a lot of it has to do with resource availability, and then those comfort zones I talked about earlier. Is it too hot or too cold? What's the temperature like? Is the pressure changing atmospherically or internally? And then the other things are your simple basic resources of food, oxygen, and water, and if those are usually in low supply, your stress levels go up, and then you need to somehow adapt. And that's how we're going to talk about what we're dealing with today in Adrinall. There are 5 adaptogens that we're going to discuss, and we'll get into that too. So we've got 5 different adaptogens that we're going to talk about. Lion's mane mushroom, Bacopa monnieri, green tea extract, vinca minor alkaloids, and then the last one we're going to talk about is rhodiola. 2 different kinds of rhodiola that come together. Anyway, so these are based off of something that is more like a 5 different kind of step premise. There's adapt, repair, nurture, grow, and protect, and all these different things have to deal with the maintenance of your cells. I think probably to talk about first would be the grow step. Now, for the grow step, we have lion's mane mushroom. It's got different hericenones and arenosines that are in it, but these are things that have been clinically shown to stimulate the nerve growth factor, NGF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and overall just something that promotes the growth of these types of tissues, actually not even in the central nervous system, but in the peripheral nervous system. And that's kind of interesting because usually when you talk about nootropics, you're talking about making your brain do more, but those cells actually do exist outside of the central nervous system itself. So the peripheral nervous system really has to do more with that mind-muscle connection that we talked about in the last video regarding choline. These are the neurons that actually stick out toward the muscles. And the more neuromuscular connections you have, the better you're going to be able to control your body. And this is actually best illustrated not so much in humans, but in insects. Insects have hundreds of times more neuromuscular density than we do. And because of that, a flea can jump many, many times its body length, and an ant can lift up many, many, many times of its body weight. And because of that neuromuscular saturation that they have, they're able to control their muscles in such a degree that is several times more powerful than ours, especially on a per size basis. So that's the grow part. The second part is going to be repair. So maybe there's been some sort of damage or something. Maybe there's been free radicals that have been oxidizing your phospholipid membranes or something, but that is where the repair part comes in. And Bacopa monarii is something that not only in the long term has actually been clinically shown to decrease forgetfulness, but it's another thing that because it actually works on triggering what's called protein kinase in the hippocampus. Now this actually gets the body to repair its own tissues, which is kind of a handy thing for Bacopa to be doing. All right, so the third adaptogen that we're talking about is green tea extract. Now a lot of you people have probably seen green tea extract before. It's got EGCG. It's used in a lot of different fat burners, but the cool thing about EGCG is, one, that everybody knows, it's an antioxidant. This is actually part of that protect phase I was talking about, because if you have enough antioxidants that are actually in your system, then you will end up preventing any kind of oxidative damage, at least to some degree. And that's why green tea is in here, is it actually has some clinical efficacy on actually hitting the dopamine transporter, and in that case, inhibiting it. Now, we talked about another kind of transporter inhibition last video, or no, was it 2 videos ago, where we were talking about Zembrin and its ability to block the 5-HT receptor, or the transporter for serotonin. And because of that, and because of this combination with the EGCG, we actually prevent the reuptake of both dopamine and serotonin, which is kind of nice. Yeah! You'll have those around your central nervous system longer, increasing that reward-driven type behavior that dopamine is all famous for. Next, after protect, I'm going to go with nurture. Nurture in that sense of using different kind of alkaloids that come from the Vinca minor plant or the Madagascar periwinkle, and the most famous alkaloid that this plant is known for is vinpocetine. And vinpocetine is really cool. It's a really nice nootropic because it blocks sodium channels that are in your central nervous system. Now, what does this do? Now, blocking these sodium channels can cause a subsequent vasodilation in the CNS, so you have actual good blood flow to your brain. This is, I guess you would kind of consider to be a brain pump, if you will. Heck? Now, if you've got vasodilation going to your brain, we also know that this is better nutrient delivery, this is better, just blood flow in general, and the third thing is it's better oxygen delivery. So the cells that are actually in your brain get more oxygen, and in case there's too much, we got a little protection from the green tea as an antioxidant as well. The last phase would be the adapt phase, and that's where I'm talking about rhodiola rosea and rhodiola crenulata. A lot of people know about rhodiola rosea because it's got different rosavins and stuff that can have some sort of effect on a monoamine oxidase. But we're also using a different kind of rhodiola, and a lot of people confuse it sometimes, but it's called rhodiola crenulata. And this is a little bit different than your typical rhodiola because it grows at much higher altitudes. And the indigenous people of Siberia would end up using this when they're climbing mountains and whatnot for 2 reasons. One, it helps you adapt to low oxygen conditions. So if you're climbing up a mountain, that makes sense. They also take it to help themselves adapt to the cold weather. So this combination of the vinpocetine that's actually increasing oxygenation to the brain, where you also have the rhodiola crenulata decreasing the need for this oxygen, it just helps oxygenate your cells in general, and it helps the body adapt to actually to being in a low oxygen type of situation. So if you're doing something where you're at a high altitude, then maybe Adrinall might be a good idea. Anyway, that's about it. I didn't touch these powders at all. But the last Adrinall video that I'm going to do, which will be coming up probably next week, is actually going to be a combination. I know I said there was going to be 6, but it turns out there's going to be 5 because I've already talked about DR caps and absorption quite a lot already. But I'm going to combine that with the cellular energy portion of this formula. We're going to knock out those last 3 ingredients, and we're going to be done with Adrinall. Because what we also have coming up are these things up here behind me. Usually where I've got my beakers and stuff for the rest of the Glaxon products that we launched last week with our little surprise launch of everything. Or not almost everything. We still have some left. But anyway, if you like what you saw today, hit like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to stop by our website and check out some of these products, if you spend over $100, you get this really sweet I Am Glaxon t-shirt. We call this Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, for those of you who know some old music. Anyway, we'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in to Glaxon TV.